We're going to talk a little bit about C3's sustainability product suite. My name is Bert Mayer. I'm a product manager at C3. I'm based out of Redwood City, and I lead our team that focuses on our ESG solution and our energy efficiency applications. So I don't want to, I'm not going to take too much time. I don't want to stand, I'm cognizant I'm the last one before dinner and socializing and relaxing, and that's not a sustainable place to be in. So I'll move quickly through this. My goal is going to be to give you a sense of what we've been working on in sustainability and ESG, to show you a little bit about where our focus is for the next year, and then to hopefully get you inspired to come by the Solutions Hub and have a deeper conversation with me and my team who are all here. I'm speaking for a broader group of folks who work on sustainability with me. So you're welcome to come by and you'll meet any number of different folks. I think what might be helpful to me, and because we have a really small group, I think it'll be easier, is to get a sense of kind of what folks' interest is. Because sustainability is such a massive and broad topic that one company or one industry's sustainability challenge can look quite different than another. So maybe just really quickly, if I can ask folks what industry you're from.
Food industry. Tyson Foods.
Tyson, great, yeah. We met previously, yeah, Solvay, yeah. HPE. Yep, HPE, great.
Actually, we work with you. Stay tuned with the Scope 3 with energy.
Oh, great, yeah. For NG Impact? Yeah, fabulous.
Professional services.
Awesome. Oil and gas. Awesome. Perfect. Beverage. Fabulous. Anyone else? Yep. Packing? Banking. Awesome. So I was going to say, you know, ESG has a lot of meanings across different industries and different use cases, and you can usually find a common language right up until you get into financial services. And then you're in a different ESG world, but we should have a conversation as well. So when we're talking with our customers and our partners today, right, the number and breadth of different ESG challenges is extremely broad because ESG encapsulate a wide variety of different issues. It's not one thing, right? Oftentimes starts with decarbonization, with carbon, but it extends into up to 2,000 different performance measures that get into diversity, equity, inclusion, supply chain human rights, and broader and broader and broader. If you heard Amy from EY speak earlier, I think she spoke really eloquently about the breadth of that challenge and the puzzle that presents to have so much within the scope of ESG. I think in general, when we talk about the challenges that we design product to resolve, ultimately it boils down to the data fusion, data management, and reporting challenge. And that's navigating this alphabet soup of frameworks and standards. You may be familiar with some where all of these TCFD, GRI, SASB, CDP, that's not to mention the ones that are coming down the pike, like the new SEC regulations, which will likely get litigated, and ISSB in Europe, and on and on and on. And then what we hear constantly from customers, prospective customers and partners, is that they spend all of their time on the data management part and all of their time on the reporting part, and they don't get to actually spend their time on the high value activities, which is planning and strategy. And how do we actually achieve these objectives, which we've defined to be aligned to our corporate strategy and value creation. So we have developed a product suite that kind of addresses the multitude of these different challenges within a really simple kind of top-down, bottoms-up framework. That's how we think about it. And the reason for that is that we found that we were being pulled in these two different directions by customers, including in the energy sector, in manufacturing, in utilities, and in professional services, where there were this set of needs that were relevant to the corporate sustainability team. And that gets at data management and validation, auditing, reporting, planning, risk mitigation, materiality assessments. And then specifically within decarbonization, and particularly within energy efficiency in scope 1 and 2, there's a whole different set of data sources and users. Right now you have to speak the language of product carbon footprints and life cycle assessments and equipment energy efficiency and And this is now actually getting closer to kind of the world of C3I reliability and process optimization, connections with OSI Pi and telemetry data. And so we've built these two interoperable pieces, and we've also built them to be interoperable with other C3I applications. So for example, energy management being connected to the same data model as reliability so that customers can persist their data once and do both predictive maintenance and energy efficiency and emissions monitoring. But largely, the sort of journey that we see across both of these modules is these three elements you see here. One is in model the organization, right? Fuse the data together, which for many companies is where they get stuck right now, or where 80% of their time and energy is spent today. We have this concept, you would have heard it in the video that Elise narrated and Amy spoke to, this concept of ESG bits, which we trademarked while still in Davos at the World Economic Forum. Yeah, this was a Tom vision, the sort of elemental unit of ESG information. And the reason why that's actually particularly valuable here is that regardless of the standards and the evolution of regulatory regimes that come down, if you're modeling the data at a detailed enough level within the application, you can just piece together the bits however you need to meet whatever requirement. Right? So whatever level of aggregation or normalization ISSB is requiring, or CSRD or the SEC, you can automate that process. And I'll show you what that looks like in the application. Then once you've done that work, you can do some really interesting AI for materiality assessments and risk mitigation. I'll show you in a minute what that has been an area that we've been really focused over the last year. And then lastly, decarbonization planning. You can actually generate what is the roadmap of actions that I and my organization need to take in order to hit the objectives that we've set for ourselves. Just like all C3 applications that you might hear about this week in supply chain or in reliability and predictive maintenance, we're bringing together enterprise source systems, external source systems. Here it's things like weather and emission factors and news media and social media and blog posts, investor reports, et cetera. And then we're applying machine learning in a variety of different ways, at a very large scale, in order to generate a set of outcomes. And here those outcomes are things like track the interests of my stakeholders over time through their public disclosures, and help me to define a pathway to achieve my decarbonization objectives. We've been working on this for a little over 18 months now, and a lot of the early work that we did, myself and a colleague, David Parham, who you'll meet if you come to the Solutions Hub, is in the mapping of the data. So we went through all of that alphabet soup of standards that I mentioned. We decomposed that into a little over 2,000 individual KPIs that we defined as everything you need if you're trying to report to everybody. We went and found, where am I most often going to find this data in my source systems? And a lot of it is ERP, EHS, utility billing, CRM, regulatory and compliance systems, and human resources management systems. But the list goes on and on and on. And then we established, how can we interconnect with these systems, unify the data, and importantly model them in that detailed, that granular way, these ESG bits that I mentioned, such that we can automatically recompose the information to meet any current voluntary standard and any future regulatory regime. Now, why are we doing this, right? Why is C3 applying AI in ESG? In some ways, it's a little bit outside of some of the other use cases that you would have seen in supply chain and predictive maintenance. Well, some in this room will know very well, and others may be new to the fact that C3 actually started as an energy efficiency-focused company. The original name of the company was C3 Energy. It was founded by Tom Siebel and Ed Abo, and Umas Indelia was there from the very start as well, or soon thereafter. And we focused on utilities and large energy consumers and applying machine learning and advanced analytics to drive insights for decarbonization and energy efficiency and utilities cost reduction. So this is the space that we've been in for a really long time, and energy management is our most mature and first ever application product. I want to tell you about these two solutions, the top-down and the bottoms-up, through the framing of a single company, a partner of C3's, an energy company, where we did two projects recently. Then we connected the dots between both of these applications. So we got together with them. I traveled to their headquarters in Europe, and we had a conversation about ESG challenges and places to apply advanced analytics, and we landed with 2 specific challenges that they felt were not being met by existing tools. One is this issue of being proactive in ESG strategy and risk management. You might have heard Amy speak to this, of organizations that want to get out in front of these stakeholders who are shifting in what's called issue materiality. What things do they care about? What things do they expect to see from you? What are the responsibilities that are emerging as relates to different sets of stakeholder groups? So they have listening tools. They had solutions that looked at social media. They had teams of people who read the news every day, but they wanted to broaden the aperture, and most significantly, they wanted to increase their speed and their flexibility to respond to evolving stakeholder concerns and issues. A second challenge they had was that they were collecting massive volumes of telemetry data, and actually were using much of that telemetry data for our predictive maintenance applications, but they weren't using it for the purposes of looking specifically at emissions and the efficiency of the applications as relates to Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. And so how can we use AI to provide insights as to which equipment they should focus on at what times? They have finite attention, they have finite CapEx budget. Where should they be focusing their attention and their dollars in terms of specific equipments within, in this case, it was offshore platforms, but we're working with other customers in which it's manufacturing lines. So I'll talk through each of those really, really quickly. I'll show you a little bit of the software so you can see what that looked like. And then I want to spend just the last few minutes before questions on showing you some roadmap stuff and what we're really excited about for the coming year. So you can see, why this is a challenge for that organization. The number of, when we talk about stakeholders as a buzzword, this is what we're talking about. The number of different organizations and individuals who are feeding them information about expectations and importance on a continuous and shifting basis is overwhelming, even for really large and sophisticated organizations. And so what we did within our C3I ESG application is we trained 3 machine learning models to do a combination of natural language processing and sentiment analysis on, this was just a quick pilot. This was about 7 weeks, and so we limited to just 315,000 paragraphs of text that came from a couple dozen different websites that relate to their biggest investors primarily, but also NGOs that they care about and civil society, a few of the local communities where some of their big plants are located. They wanted to get out in front of if anyone is saying anything locally. So investors, NGOs, civil society, and competitors, other energy companies. They estimated, they told us that to get through, these are the sorts of things that they read and that they feed into their other tools. They estimated to get through those would be about 2 years of effort for their team. And again, this is one of the largest companies in the world and cares extraordinarily deeply in terms of investing in capabilities for exactly this. Within 4 days, our ESG model identified a specific set of excerpts on the order of 6 excerpts that related specifically to their business and the ESG concerns of those groups. Now, it's not, I wish that I could put a single number up, $2 billion enterprise value created or something like that. But really, this is of massive value, but strategic value. Right? This is about increasing the speed with which they can respond to those concerns in near real time. They can go and actually have a direct conversation with those stakeholders as concerns are being raised in the public sphere. They can potentially, some of the insights that we saw were their customers speaking about new sustainability priorities that potentially represent new lines of business for this company. Right? Our account rep didn't know that company's sustainability team was making commitments. But now that we have that insight, we can go and start a conversation with this company about a potential new revenue generating initiative with them. So I'm going to flip over just really quickly to show you what that looks like. So I'll jump over and I'll chat about the next use case that we did with this company, which in some ways is the same. It's about meeting ESG objectives, but it's actually a totally different area of their business. And we see this increasingly with organizations that energy efficiency, that Scope 1, Scope 2 emissions reduction falls within the operations, the manufacturing, the engineering innovation teams, environmental engineering. And so it was a totally different stakeholder on this project, and we used as a basis for the project are the application you saw on the bottom half of that screen, C3I Energy Management, or extension of C3I Energy Management that we developed with this customer. And when they came to us, we identified on these offshore platforms a specific set of equipment related to power generation that are the bulk of their emissions. They have sophisticated alarm systems that raise when operating conditions go outside of parameters, and they alert their various engineers to potential problems. But they weren't doing anything using that telemetry data to point them towards the actual specific opportunities for efficiency and emissions reduction. And so they recognized we don't look on a day-to-day basis at which equipment we can repair, replace, retrofit, change the configurations and the set points in order specifically to reduce our emissions. So what we did was we took 4 years of data from 2 offshore platforms. We ingested over 12,000 files related to minute-level equipment measurements. And what we generated for every equipment is a chart that looks something like this. Now, the best way to explain what you see here is a white line that's the actual emissions of this equipment over time, and you see a series of other colored lines that go above and below. And the best way to explain this is that we've looked at this equipment's history over time, over years, and we have learned how does it respond to different conditions. What does it look like when it's doing really well, when it's really efficient? By efficient, I mean it's generating high output or throughput per unit emissions it's producing. And when is it not, under which conditions is it inefficient? My fiance related this to like, under the conditions in which I am hungry and haven't eaten, then I am on poor behavior. And so we have learned for this equipment, what does its good days and what does its bad days look like, so that on a continuous basis, we show the operators for every single equipment, which ones are closer to having a bad day versus a good day. And also, by the way, when we can show this delta between the green line and the red line, we can say what is the benefit to you in emissions of bringing all of your equipment to their best on a continuous basis. Right? If right now, at this moment in time, every equipment was having a good day, was operating per its historical, most efficient trajectories, what would that mean in terms of our decarbonization? And so that's the first step, is we call that baselining individually for equipment. So learning for each equipment what's its profile, what's its gap to expectation, what's its gap to potential. Now, the next step in this project is to do cadres of equipment. So we can already do simple benchmarking, say equipment A is performing better, has higher efficiency than equipment B. That was actually a new for them as well. That doesn't require any machine learning. It just requires really good data modeling and benchmarking metrics. And next step is to actually do clustering and understand what cadres of equipment perform better and worse under which conditions. All of this serves the single purpose of helping them to identify sooner when things go astray. And where do they have opportunities to focus their CapEx budget and the attention of their operators? So what's the value of that? It's improved performance. It's taking their existing data infrastructure, their sensors, and applying machine learning to actually give them actionable insight. You can imagine searching if you were here for Nikhil's generative AI session, you can imagine searching like, which equipment should I go look at if I want to reduce my emissions right now? And that's what we're answering here. The second benefit that we got here is reporting transparency, right? They were doing essentially platform level monthly reporting. We're now doing 15-minute level equipment reporting. And when you do that across platforms, now you enable the folks on each platform to actually go and identify their opportunities for improvement as well. Because we've built this on the same data model as the C3I reliability application, which is deployed broadly at this customer, that means we don't have to repersist data. Our plans with this customer are to deploy it broadly at all of the different assets around the world where they're doing predictive maintenance, and now they've gained this additional use case with minimal upfront effort. That's why we work to make our applications interoperable. So where are we going with this? A few specific areas. And again, apologies that I can't get my laptop to connect to these screens. If you come by, I'll show you some really neat and attractive designs that'll relate to some of these things. But one area, and the last one you see in the chevrons is generative AI. We think there are a broad number of different places where generative AI can support corporate ESG professionals. Some of them are immediately obvious, like if a large part of their challenge is in reporting, is in engaging with different stakeholder groups, we can help them to create that first draft of their narrative with, in immediate time frame. Now we add on that we're tracking materiality. We're looking at individual stakeholder groups and their ESG issue concerns over time. Imagine you crafting tailored text for individual stakeholders that incorporate your performance, your projects, your initiatives, and also the needs that we're hearing from those stakeholders. So that as an automated conversation starter for every single stakeholder in your orbit. Another area that we're really focused on is what we call decarbonization planning. And what's quite funny to folks who've been at C3AI since the beginning in 2009 is that this is really where the company started, is let's take libraries of projects, of abatement opportunities. Some are publicly available, some are brought to us by customers who know what are the things, the checklist that they use when they go plant to plant to go and investigate opportunities for energy efficiency or scope or value chain emissions reduction, or et cetera. Some are through partners. So we work with folks like EY and Amy, who you heard earlier. They obviously as well have a really robust library of different actions that they bring to clients. Can we automate some of that plan development and scenario analysis? And where we are starting from is, can we make it relatively trivial to enter what are my constraints, what are my objectives, what do I need to hit over time in terms of various ESG measures, and how much risk am I willing to take? And how much cost am I willing to bear in different regions or business lines? And can you help me assemble a plan and then help me to play around with that plan as things change over time, so that I can ensure that I at least have my arms around this decarbonization commitment that I've made to my investors and my customers. That's an area that we're really focused. So planning and scenario analysis, generative AI, continued work on prescriptive insights for operational decarbonization and bringing sustainability and emissions reduction into the plant. These are the areas where my team is laser focused today. Great, thank you. Thanks for joining me. Please come by the Innovation Hub. It's a small group, so I remember all your faces. I'll go track you down.
Thank you.
Thank you.